you?
I'm wonderful in yourself.
I'm fine, thank you. As an educator, I've read your book, The 12 Feats, and how did it help me? And I must say that has inspired me greatly. How did you come up with the idea to write such a book?
Well, it all started when I was in college, actually. My junior year, to be exact. I had a professor named Dr. Nucci, and she introduced the 12 Feats to me, and it contributed greatly in my education. And from then on, I took it on with me from learning in the classroom to actually teaching it into the classroom. So I would say it was because of Dr. Nucci who inspired me to become such a phenomenal educator. To begin with, my book, it actually has 12 chapters, which includes all 12 feats, which stands for Florida's Educators Accomplished Practices. For example, if you zoom in into my book, I'll go through each chapter with you so that you'll have a full understanding of how the 12 feats can help you. The first chapter is assessment. And during assessment, I always ask, did my students learn and how do I know? So as an educator, I would give out an assessment to see the students' progress so I can know what I have to teach and what I have to go back and reteach and how can I move forward with the information that I received from each student's assessment. And also for chapter 2, it's all about communication. You see how you approach me in the situation, asking me about my book. That means you're very involved in what I want to do and how I do things. And communication is very important into the education environment because if you have no communication with your students, they will never learn. So with chapter 2, I always ask myself, am I using my communication skills to promote and document learning? You can teach, but it's all in the way of how you teach and how you say things to your students so they can grasp the actual knowledge. Moving on to chapter 3 is continuous improvement. And I always say to myself, what can I learn from this experiment and how can I do it better the next time? In education, it's all about, trial and error. It's never one time you do something and it's the best. So it's like you always have to keep repeating stuff and doing it in different types of ways to see how the class feel about the situation. And then if this first approach doesn't succeed, you just dust yourself off and go on to the next one. So that's continuous improvement for the classroom. Going on to chapter 4, which is all about critical thinking. This is where I get my gifted students. They're a handful. Yes. So it's like if you don't challenge their mind, they're gonna stay in the same place. So you give them a few critical questions that have them expanding the mind and using all of their brain because there's a theory, left side, right side. But I think the students have to use their whole brain in order to get things accomplished. Moving on to chapter 5, we have diversity. Here in Florida, there's not one ethnicity that I doesn't know exists in the classroom. It's all about different people, and you have to have different, lessons about different cultures, so the students won't feel like you're being biased and only having, a favoritism towards one culture and not the other. So with diversity, that's very important. So I always ask, do I value and have I met the needs of each of my individual students? You don't never want a child to feel like they're left behind.
That's true.
Yes. Going on to ethics, I always ask, will my actions or lack of actions hurt anyone in any way? And will my work promote the well-being of others? You have to be very careful when you're teaching these kids because they won't do as you say, but they'll actually do as you do. So if you have to lead by example. You can't say one thing and do another because that's contradicting yourself to your students. And then they'll be befuddled. They won't know what to do. So make sure that you have a very respectable manner for yourself so that your students can have that respect for you also as their educator. Feat number 7, chapter 7 is human development and learning, which is so important because does this fit the development status of my students? If your students are not developing in a classroom, they will never exceed in life. Everything that goes on in the classroom is what they need for the real world, the outside world. So with human development and learning, that would help them in real life situations. Going on to chapter 8, knowledge of subject matter. This one is very important to me because people, they'll place you in the classroom, and if you don't know what you're teaching, how do you expect the students to learn if you have no prior knowledge of what you're about to teach? That's like the blind leading the blind. And in a classroom, that there's no such thing as that, because you have to know what you're talking about in order to teach it. So this book is very essential because it'll teach you everything that you need to learn, and you can apply it to your everyday classroom. Moving on, number 9, your learning environment. See, my classroom, if you see, I teach a gifted class. I let their imaginations run wild. If you have too much things going on in the classroom, they won't have no focus, and that means they won't be able to accept and, take on to the knowledge that you're teaching them. But if you have a learning environment that's safe and, that's, I won't say plain Jane, but it can't be too much, then that'll be an easy flowing more environment so that the students can actually pay attention to you and not what's going on about the classroom. Going on, we have planning. Planning.
Very important.
Yes. Have you ever planned anything?
Yes.
What have you planned?
My class syllabus, different events.
Exactly. Planning helps you go through the day much more swiftly. Because if you don't plan, you're going in front of people and you're not going to know what you're talking about. But if you plan something, you can go back to your lesson plans and see what you have and for what that time is and the time allotted that you have, so it can go smoothly. When you plan, you always have to have a plan A, plan B, plan C, or even a plan D sometimes, messing around with these children in the classroom. No, seriously, but planning is all the worthwhile. Even though it's very time consuming, I guarantee it will help any future educator or any educator in the classroom. Chapter 11 is actually role of the teacher. I remember my teacher who said, Dr. Nucci, she said, a teacher isn't just a teacher. She said they're a nurturer, a tutor, a mother, because when the kids are with you, they're with you for the whole day, so they're your responsibilities. So you being the teacher, you have to wear many hats, and that's what comes along with the job. And last but not least, chapter 12 is all about technology. This world is so advanced now. It's not just paperbacks and hardcovers. You got to teach kids how to work the computer, and also how they can't outsleep you with the computer, because they'll press Google for their homework and that's it. But if you know all about technology, it'll all be good. So that was my inspiration on my book, The 12 Feats, and how it helped me. I hope that you learned very much from this, and I also, as a gift, I'm signing this to you, so you can have a personal copy for yourself.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you. It was nice.
Nice meeting you too.